Well, hello, everyone. I am David Nuno, and we call this TexAgs Rewind. Appreciate everybody listening in or watching, however you take in the show, probably on YouTube or maybe on TexAgs.com. We are presented by T-Mobile, and they want you to visit T-Mobile.com/acrossamerica to learn how you get more value and more coverage through T-Mobile. So on the show today, we talked with Dennis Dodd. He thinks, the college football playoffs are going to be something that is discussed next week at SEC Media Days, so we will be all over that. He's from CBS Sports. He also gave us his hot seat there in college football, and Scott Frost, one of the names on there. Herm Edwards was on there, so there's some names out there. You got to be careful. Oh, and of course, Brian Harsin as well. We had Trisha Ford in studio, A&M softball coach. She just got the job about a month ago, came in, hung out with us for a little bit. It was good to talk with her. We had Ryan Broniger in studio, recruiting country. People are hitting the panic button with A&M recruiting. He says, not so fast, just slow down just a little bit there. We also did some conference expansion talk with Olin Buchanan. I like Olin. He's my friend, so I got to like him. But he's good at what he does. This is TexAgs Rewind. Do you trust anything that Sankey says about expansion right now?
It's been well known I'm not a fan, right?
Yeah. But okay, you're not a fan, but is he good at what he does?
In some ways.
Yeah.
In some ways, he's been a failure. In some ways too.
Where has he failed?
Well, maybe he's learned from it, but I thought one of the greatest criticisms I had of him was several years ago when the hurricane interrupted things, and first of all, there's never been any policy in place on what you're going to do. I mean, how many times did you have to have hurricane issues before you said, you know what, maybe we ought to have some contingency plans beforehand? And then he just buckled to what was that? Jeremy Foley, was that his name? The AD at Florida.
I don't remember.
And basically let him decide what they were going to do, much like BB would buckle to Texas.
Right.
You're the freaking commissioner.
Right.
Step up and you make the decision and you tell them how it's going to be. And then, of course, the breaking the agreement with A&M, I thought was pretty.
But now that we know what we know, was it the communication should have been much better. There's 1,000%.
I'll give you that.
But the move seemed to be necessary.
Yeah, that's what we're told. That the move was necessary.
Or did that move make these moves necessary?
I think that move made the other moves necessary.
But if there was a chance that Texas was or Oklahoma was gonna go to the Big Ten, didn't they have to get on it first?
That's what we're told.
But do you not believe that?
Not necessarily. Is if Texas and Oklahoma was in the Big Ten, does that make the SEC any less valuable?
Does
that make it any less exciting? Does it make it any less strong?
I think they still have Texas, right? So if you would have just gotten Oklahoma State, let's say, and Texas and Oklahoma would have gone to the Big Ten, would that have been a wash in your opinion?
I don't know. I'm just saying that the SEC is the strongest conference right now. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And by adding Texas and Oklahoma, do you really get stronger? I mean, Texas lost to Kansas last year. They're 5-7. Texas has had one really good year in the last 10 or longer, and they went 10-4 and said, we're back. And ever since then, they haven't been.
Right.
Back to losing to Kansas. Oklahoma's been good. But whenever they play an SEC team in the playoffs, they always lose.
Yeah.
Now, you can say, yeah, well, they won they beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, and they're going to find out that the Sugar Bowl is a consolation prize that really your SEC team does not want to be there. And it's a fact.
So let's talk a little bit about your expertise. And you love pitching. You love to develop that. What is your style? Where did your love start from that?
It's kind of weird because I was a hitter in college. Okay. So I was a lefty thumber, to be honest with you. But where I went to school, St. Mary's College, it's a small school, we didn't have a lot of full-time coaches, and we had some great ones, but we didn't have that ability to kind of have somebody in the bullpen every single day. And those that were part of my life growing up knew that I was always going to be a coach, but I didn't know that. And so I was just always involved, and I would go into the bullpens and, stand in and talk to them, because I'd pitched my whole life, but wasn't really that dominant pitcher. I could locate, I could make the ball spin, and I could change speed. So I was, you could be successful with that. And so I started in the bullpens there, and I don't know, Stanford called. I became the interim head coach and then the head coach at St. Mary's, and then Stanford called, actually looking for our full-time pitching coach at St. Mary's just to see what she was up to. And she might be a familiar name, Maureen Brady, who's Tom Brady's sister.
Yeah.
She coached at St. Mary's for a bit. And then when John called, I said, well, if you're looking for a pitching coach, I could be your pitching coach. And so that's how it all started. And so I went over there and followed, Lonnie Alameda, who's just a tremendous pitching coach. And that's how it all, began, as just a conversation and me kind of selling myself, saying, hey, I can come over there and do that.
Totally random, but not everybody meets siblings, right? So I'm not saying, but did you ever meet Tom Brady?
He came to a couple of games.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were all like, ooh, that's a nice looking boy. Yeah. That's when he was at Michigan.
Oh, he was still at Michigan at the time.
Yeah, because
Okay.
we're about the same age, Tom and I, yeah. So,
Right,
yeah. So.
And you had no idea he was going to become this
No,
legend.
we just thought he was good on the eyes, to be honest with you, yeah.
All right, for Tom. So as a pitching coach, as a pitcher, the mental side of the game, that is a part that is easier said than done. How do you preach it?
Well, you live it every day. You continue to put them in situations, and that's something that I think we do that's pretty unique every single day of, those pressure situations. We talk about, how you're dealing with them, how you're digesting, what's your routine. We'll sit down and have strategy talks, and just, that's life, though. Life is how you deal with stress and how you deal with ups and downs. And so I think the biggest thing is, you talk about it, but you also just continually to put them in those situations without saying a lot, and say, hey, figure it out. Like, how are you going to work through this? And so that's something that we'll hit really hard. I think that mental side is just a key component for our success on the field. And so being able to enjoy that stress is really, what competing is.
You mentioned earlier you came to town, and once you're here, right?
Yes.
So I'm assuming from a recruiting perspective, you guys check out Davis Diamond, that's a game changer, right? It's done typically.
Yeah, I mean, good Lord, coming to work every day, it's really rough, let me tell you. But it's just a beautiful, and I was able to meet Monty and Becky, and they've just been so supportive and just great. But what a beautiful stadium that they've built and we've been a part of, and we're just lucky that we get to play on that every single day. Yeah.
So I know that it's typically, and correct me if I'm wrong here, the prior season really has more to do where the recruiting class goes as opposed to the current season, right? A lot of the guys that A&M signed for the 2022 class were being recruited during the Orange Bowl run, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if this year goes as good as it can go, 10-win season, 11-win season.
Oh, sure.
That changes a lot.
You'll get back in on a lot of guys, and I think you'll start, getting those guys to campus is a huge part on a game day, right? Because what you have across the street, there's not many in the country that can offer that kind of game day experience, and that will leave an indelible impression whether kids are still looking at A&M or committed elsewhere and kind of leaving the door open to A&M. Like Ruben Owens, I don't think A&M's completely done there. We need to see what happens with Cedric Baxter out of Florida, the running back. But I think A&M can certainly at least get Ruben back on campus at some point. And going into the fall, that's a big deal. Like, you got to get the guys on campus. And there are certain recruitments still, like if DJ Hicks doesn't come to the pool party, which he hasn't made a decision on what he's going to do that last weekend in July, I don't think, if he goes to Oklahoma or if he goes to Michigan State that weekend, I don't think that's an indicator of who's going to be the pick there. Like that recruitment, I think the plan for it, at least is that it lasts for a while. Like, he's going to go to an All-American game and make his pick there. But you do have to start – like, I can make an argument, David, that this July pool party is more important than the last one, right? Because you had the ball rolling at least last summer when you went into that pool party, and you had a good group of players where you're going, okay, like it's all going to come from this group. There's a lot of them in Houston. there's a lot of these guys. We have a bunch of guys committed that are going to help us pull on the other kids that are at the pool party. You just don't have it this year.
Well, you're going to have some names there.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, the visitor list is going to be really impressive. I'm not trying to sell that short at all. What I'm trying to say is that you can make an argument that it may be more important this year because of kind of where things are around you in the state and in the region in other recruiting classes.
So what does a rough year recruiting, and I don't know what rough means. I don't know if that means outside of the top 10. What does that mean when you combine it with last year?
Well, I mean, it's all about gaining toward, Georgia and Bama because they're at the top of the sport. And Ohio State's up there too. So like you've got to make sure that you're not only getting quality talent, but you're getting quality depth. So you got to address roster spots. But like, I don't even like the term rough recruiting year yet. Mm-hmm. Like that's a determination that we can make in February when all the cards have played out, when the season's played out, when everybody's had a chance to go through official visits on campus during game days, and we have a better idea of what has happened with A&M's class, then we can sit back and assess it. But to call something a rough recruiting cycle in July, that's really early, right?
When people talk about Texas A&M, there's a couple things they bring up. Obviously, quarterback, how's that going to evolve? But also some of the inexperience after losing a lot on the defensive line, a lot of young talent coming up, but just some that is one of the storylines. The fact that they were able to keep Damani Richardson and Anaya Smith for another year, a lot of football. How big is that for this program?
It's big. I mean, for A&M, I come down to the point that how many of those 8 5-stars in the recruiting class, how many of those are going to have an impact this year? That's why I'm not big on them this year. We obviously know that, they're very good players and that's going to be good for the future, but maybe not this year. I like Haynes King. I don't know, that much about him because he got hurt early. So I'm supposing that A&M has a quarterback. But again, it's the SEC West. It's, you're bumping your head on a glass ceiling, if not a cement ceiling. And in year 5, what does that mean for Jimbo? They beat Alabama, finally beat Alabama, first assistant coach, and they go 8-4. You got to do better than that if you're going to beat Alabama. So in the West, with talent that's coming but hasn't arrived, I'm high on them for the future, not necessarily this year.
So how do you see the West playing out? Is it Bama and then A&M to potentially or Arkansas?
Ooh, I don't know. Yeah, Arkansas is a weird one for me because speaking of hot seat, I had Sam Pittman as a 0. I had Sam Pittman with the same job security as Nick Saban. How about that?
Wow.
What he's done at Arkansas has been amazing. And they do have some weapons now, it looks like, offensively with KJ Jefferson. The Catalan kid is an All-America safety, was a freshman All-America safety. So they're going to be up and coming. So who's second? It's certainly not Auburn. I don't think it's LSU. It could be A&M, a fall, a big fall down to number 2, not, a lot of distance between number 2 and number 1, but it could be. That bears watching.
Talking to Dennis Dodd here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. So anything beyond conference realignment next week when we get to SEC Media Days that you're looking to hear?
Oh, I think it's on the horizon, but we've got to start talking about the playoff again because Mark Keenum, the president at Mississippi State, who's the chairman of the CFP Board of Managers, has said that this will be all wrapped up by next summer. That was before USC and UCLA. We're going to have to wait and see how the conferences are reorganized, what access is for everybody. Will there even be a playoff? Greg Sankey keeps stressing that we don't even have a format after 25 going into the 26 season. I wonder if those commissioners from the ACC and the Pac-12 regret not voting for a 12-team playoff. They'd be taken care of right now to the point that would we even have this realignment going on if everybody was taken care of with the top 6 conference champions and then 6 at large? I wonder about that and what that's going to look like. Can the SEC and Big Ten alone say, you know what, in 2026, we don't need to be unanimous? How about this? 12 best, take it or leave it. Because we're pretty darn close to staging our own playoff. And what does that look like when that in any given year, 8 to 10 of those schools could be from the Big Ten and SEC?
Sam, I want you to do the closeout with me. This is the second time in this week. We've only been doing the show for 3 times, right? that you have tried to cut me off before my outro. The people don't know what to do after they watch a YouTube video. If I don't tell them, they won't know to like. They won't know to comment. They won't know to subscribe. Why do you keep doing this to me?
I don't know. Sorry.
That is really a creepy voice. Tell everybody what to do, and then we can go.
Like, comment, subscribe. Tell David how good he is at his job and how bad I'm at my job.
Well, this is true. But this is the internet. People don't give compliments typically. They only do mean things. So thanks for opening up the floodgates, Sam. It is TexAgs Rewind presented by T-Mobile. Bye.